Okay, so this is my project Mon Mothma, and this is a promotional products company. Let's see if we can get this to work. There we go. All right, so some key information. They are located on the East Coast. They were founded in 1986. The owner is currently 70 and he's looking to retire, but he's not distressed or any health issues. He is healthy, has no health issues. Their revenues last year were 14.9 million. Adjusted EBITDA was 3.6, and they're asking 15.5 million. So this is pretty much in my lane. I have a lot of cross-sector type of capabilities, but I've had 30 plus years in retail, e-commerce, hospitality, and manufacturing space. So this kind of covers a lot of those bases. It's really interesting kind of company. They have all these different types of products and different categories. They have apparel and backpacks and whatnot, and then branded merchandise, uniforms and workwear. They have e-commerce sites that they sell for some of the customers. They have eco-friendly products as well as a rewards and recognition programs. So a little bit company overview. They specialize in supplying a full range of promotional products and marketing services. The promotional products represent a $20.6 billion industry that has demonstrated consistent growth in both utilization and merchandising. The company offers about over 300,000 products, including OEM, custom manufactured products with a 35-year history of working with some of the top companies in the US. There are some of their key features. They have an established and reliable supply chain for products. They have vertical integration in all areas: production, warehousing, distribution, and in-house decoration. They have a strong balance sheet with quote unquote zero debt, strong cash flow, and potential for continued growth. There's no limit to potential customers in the business-to-business focus that has been the company's strategy for 35 years. They have an established brand name and outstanding reputation for dedication to customer service. So some high-level numbers for the market. As the beginning of 2023, there were $26.1 billion in revenue. They have the market has annual profit of $2 billion, and with a 1.1% increasing revenue growth. Let's see. So some of the growth opportunities in this business: you can diversify the client base to include larger corporate clients within the US and internationally. Implement a subscription-based service where existing proprietary software can be sold and generate recurring revenue. Let's see. Expand inventory management to respond to increased demand. We can explore options to reinvest revenues in additional equipment to increase vertical integration competencies. So some of the strengths and weaknesses on this: they do have some managerial people in place, although I would need to get a GM. They have systems and training in place, and the owner is willing to stay on and train a new GM to ensure smooth transition. He does want his price and his terms, which we know that's not going to work. He wants 15.5 million with 10 at close and seller finance the rest. All the relationships are with the owner, even though he's willing to help transfer them to the buyer. And this is a broker deal. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see. So this is an overview of some of the competitor landscape. They have these are the top largest ones, but there's many different levels of these types of businesses, and it's very diverse. So it depends on which lane you're swimming in. I'm not going to read all that for you. Let's see. So the team is right now just me. with a potential GM. Like I said, beginning, I have retail, e-commerce, hospitality, and manufacturing experience, and that goes across many different sectors. The general manager, the seller actually has a few potential candidates that he's willing to train to take over. I didn't have anybody in mind, which is kind of good. I don't know yet if I would need anybody else partnering, um, depending on the situation. Open to that, just have to see. This is high level snapshot of the one sheet, which I'll get to in a second. And basically, I'm just looking for feedback, whether this is a viable deal, this is out of reach, and if it is viable, how would you suggest financing it? That type of thing, whether it's annuity or whatnot. And that is it.
Very good. Do you have the one sheet that you can
Yep,
pull up?
sure can.
All right. Can you walk us through this?
Let's see. What do you want to know first?
All right. Let's see here. Um, so
There
obviously
is
the big thing that sticks out is the revenue growth. So walk us through what happened from 21 to 23. Do you know why the business grew from 6 million to almost 15 million in 2 years?
honestly that to that granular level. No, I don't.
Okay,
Um,
gotcha.
I know I have some numbers for the last, uh, their fiscal year ends in September. So I do have some 24 numbers, but not a full year, obviously. But they're doing pretty good up until this point. And I don't remember what he said was his projected for this year, but he's not stopping. Let's just say that. He's not distressed. He's willing. He wants to retire, but loves doing what he's doing, and so there's not like a immediate urgency to get out, which is kind of unfortunate from my perspective. But he does love his employees, his legacy, and all that. Um, and it's his baby. He's been doing this since the '80s, so he grew it from nothing. Um, so he's just they're just basically cranking it, and they're going into different avenues to get as much revenue as possible.
Yep, gotcha. Yeah, I would just want to understand what drove that growth because, that's very significant and, is that sustainable? What led to that? All those types of things.
Hmm.
Because what looks like is happening is they're pricing the business off the last year,
Yeah.
uh the best year. I would have concerns over that. That's in these types of situations, that's where I usually put in some sort of earnout associated with it.
Yep.
So taking an average of, whatever the adjusted EBITDA is, whether that be a weighted average or just, a general average across the 3 years, coming up with a reasonable valuation with that, and then, bridging the gap with an earnout to to that last year's earnings, for the asking price for sure, just to cover some of the risk of the growth and those types of things. So I would definitely factor that into any sort of offer that I would put in for this.
Hmm.
The other question I have is the ad backs continue to grow each year. No ad backs in 21 up to almost $1 million in 2023. So what are all those ad backs that are in there, and are they valid or not?
Yeah, they had a lot of family members. Auto. He took more money out. I don't remember what this negative one was, but yeah.
Gotcha. All right, so they're paying officer
Oops.
salary. So that's all his pay then, that or his or her
Yeah.
pay. that basically
Never.
makes up the back. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Very good. Yeah, interesting business. The only other thing that I would have on this is, I would question the, bit of some questions around the actual accuracy of the financial statements. Looking at the balance sheet, the AP number is negative.
Yeah, I asked him about that. He
Probably
said they prepay their suppliers because
Gotcha.
yeah, so I mean, that's how, like they don't have a lot of debt waiting because they prepay a lot of their orders. They order stuff from their suppliers ahead of time, and a lot of them have prepayments. And this was
Gotcha.
just like one snapshot, whatever was in February. So
Okay,
sure.
perfect. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
that stood out to me too. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, so the motivation is pretty low. Can you talk us about why the seller's looking to sell?
He's 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 70. He wants to retire, but he's not like desperate to retire. He loves what he's doing. He just wants to make sure it's handed off to somebody that can take over, and he doesn't want to. He's not in a fast hurry. He said he's healthy. He's not, there's nothing going on. He even told me he's like healthy as a horse. It's not, so it's like, okay, I get
Yeah,
it. Some of, like the target people are the people that are sick or people in the family's sick, but they don't have any of that stuff. So he's not
gotcha. And,
super
and you
urgent.
mentioned family works in the business. Is he just paying
I
family members as to get the tax benefit, or does he actually have people within his family that are actually within key roles within the business?
I think this was a child, one of his children, but the other one, his wife actually works in the business, but I think that's combined in the officer salary. I have to dig back into it. It's been a while. But I believe this was like a non-working member of the family, and then his wife is part of this because she's like a 10%. He's 90%, she's 10%, and
Uh-huh.
I don't remember what the ratio was, but um, but like I said, I
Okay,
think they're
Got it.
paying a child.
you have to replace both of those people? Are they working the business?
They are working the business, and the owner said that he considers his job something that two people would need to take over. So I think that's why I put this adjusted in here,
Okay.
based on what they had told me.
So now you
Whether or
have
not that's true, I don't know.
are they willing to stay on for some period of time?
Yeah, the owner said he'd be willing to hang around and at least train a new GM. So it's which is good. He even had people in mind that would be able to jump in that role. Uh, Even though in the company itself, they have maybe a VP. I don't know if there's a VP, but there was some kind of a officer that could temporarily do it, but he didn't think that they could do it full time type of thing. So unfortunately,
Got it. Okay. David, you've got a number of questions in the chat. Why don't you come on and ask those?
Yeah, so I really I want to dig into a little bit more, Tammy, on exactly what it is that this business does. And I guess I'll start with my last question that I'd put, and that is, what makes this company different than literally the 27 other promotional products companies that are within 5 miles of my house? You know, what are there contracts? Is there special IP? Do they have their own proprietary designs? Are they manufacturing, or is it all just
they it's kind of
contract?
like a combination of all. They have contracts with major companies to do uniforms and the like, and then promotional products, whatever that may be. They have one major customer that is like their top customer. They have a special team that works with them specifically. I don't know what they actually make for them, but these people, they basically source out all the material, whether it's shirts or bottles or what have you, and then they bring it in house and they print everything on it. They do embroideries, they do screen printing, they do all those types of things. They have eco-based products. They have that this guy he's into that. One of his wheelhouses. Is I think he's got some kind of a degree in something. sciencey. I don't remember. He was going off on it. I'm like, okay. So he's into the eco products, you know, that kind of stuff. And he started back in the day, you know, building up somebody else's business, and they turned him around and said, no, we don't want you anymore. So he did his own. So yeah, they have the B2B contracts with some major customers, and that's something you could, you know, build off on, or go to pretty much any B2B company to do.
Okay. And what does the sales organization look like? Is it employees? Do the employees have
Yes.
the contact now, or they have independent contractors out repping the product? What
No,
and what
they have employees in-house. I think there's what 15 of them total at the moment. There may be a part-time, one or two part-time, but most of them are full-time. And I don't know if they have a dedicated sales team or not. I don't think so. And they're pretty much a distributor.
Okay. And so you said they're actually doing the screen printing and the embroidery in-house, but the rest of the stuff they're then the pins, the mugs, the desk ornaments, the tchotchkes, all of that stuff. They're outsourcing that probably overseas.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that they buy the products that they like. So they order. Say somebody orders like 500 t-shirts embroidered, or embroidered with a logo on it. They'll go and, you know, go to Nike and say, hey, we want these shirts, and then they'll bring them in house, and then they put the logo on them, that type of thing, or wherever they get them from, because they have contracts with some big manufacturers of you know, apparel, and then they'll turn around and put the decoration on it in house.
Okay, and so they're big enough that they're able to source direct, and therefore probably pricing.
Yeah, and this gentleman has some key, I guess he's got a lot of relationships with distributors, a lot of them maybe in China too, which is kind of odd, but whatever. They have them.
I would expect a lot of them are.
Yeah, and he's got those types of relationships which would need to be transferred to the buyer. So
yeah, and then the other thing I would, you know, you mentioned, you know, with the negative payable, because they're basically prepaying for a lot of their the product they're ordering, or at least putting up a deposit. I would get a really clear back to the theme of the last call, right, or the last presentation. Get a clear understanding of the cash conversion cycle of this business. Do they get a deposit from their customer that turns around and funds that deposit to the vendor, or are they funding that vendor deposit and carrying the receivable? They also have a fair amount of inventory. And since this is probably all, if not bespoke design, at least bespoke imprinted. So what is the inventory just work in progress, or do they actually have stuff sitting there? And if it's stuff sitting there, how much of that is fresh, and how much of that is, you know, the really cool environmentally friendly product he designed 6 years ago, and there's pallets of it sitting in the warehouse.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Is it like a quick turnaround, or if it's just in between? It's like, yeah, how fast is the turnaround?
Yeah, I mean, they're showing 16 days of inventory, so that it makes sense to me that it would be potentially just work in progress. I mean, that's 2 weeks worth of t-shirts and polos that have come in that they just haven't embroidered and sold yet. But verify that, and verify that all that's solid. And then, I mean, the 40 days of AR, if they're getting deposits, then that, you know, if they're getting a 50% deposit, then that's really 80 days of AR, because half of it is coming up front and the other half is getting paid over time. So I would dig into understanding, you know, if you have a one-on-one conversation with them, you know, say, look, so walk me through. I'm your new customer, and I'm going to place an order with you. Walk me through exactly what happens on the customer-facing side and on the vendor-facing side. Walk me through every step and just tell me how it happens.